the Hills, a sports crazy,
Keep your eye on the ball.
On the what?
music loving,
Mother of God, it's all toilet sounds.
engine fixing,
I think you released your brake cable.
No, it didn't.
down to earth family.
Dale, you giblet head.
Introducing King of the Hill.
Please return the garage door to its factory preset down position.
Premiering January 12th on Fox.
Jingle bells, Santa smells, Christmas really stunk. I got nothing that I like, my gifts were all just junk. Boxes full of clothes, CDs no one knows. When I wanted something for my Nintendo 64, Zelda's great, Turok 2, South Park would be fine. How about Rogue Squadron? That game should be mine.
Make up for a lame Christmas. Get the hits you missed on N64.
Mom and Dad, I'm so sad.
Satellite dish trouble?
No, I'm just up here to kill myself.
It's electric, Bill.
Spare a beer for a lady?
Tis the season for nervous breakdowns on a new King of the Hill Fox Tuesday.
Sitcom, all ye faithful, a Christmas podcast special, where for the fourth time I discuss 25 Christmas sitcom episodes. Please come and listen as we count down to Christmas. You should see Punky Brewster, the Partridges and Benson. Michael J. Fox will return, and for one more year the Fonz will definitely have one last episode with the Fonz.
Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome back to Sitcom, all ye faithful. I didn't sing like normal, but that's not the only thing I'm welcoming back. I'm not welcoming back just you, the viewer, the listener, the watcher, the whatever. I'm also welcoming back to the show a friend I've had for over 30 years, a long-time contributor to Geek Mentality. He's been on multiple episodes of Marty McFly. He's been on all seasons, with right now, he's been on every season of Sitcom All You Faithful. And for the past 3 years, he has brought excellent episodes of a show that I say I'm going to watch every year, and I never do until he brings it up again. My buddy Jason, welcome back to the show.
Happy holidays. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. And once again, Jason's brought with him a handpicked episode of King of the Hill.
Handpicked.
And once again, like last
year. I'm going in sequence, though. Are we not? Are we not going in sequence?
I think so. Did we go season 1, season 2, season 3? I believe we might.
I think that's what we're trying to do.
So I'm sure there are plenty. I'm sure they must do a Christmas episode every year. I don't know.
Based on the ones we've seen thus far, they should.
Yeah, and I don't know if they'll be as depressing as this one was, but
this one
goes places.
They do this. This one goes places that I don't know they're able to go in today's present complicated times.
But it kind of worked. It worked, especially for where they are, the type of people they are, what they had to deal with. I think it worked pretty good.
If my enjoyment is a scale at all, then it worked perfectly.
It did, absolutely.
I thought it was probably one of the better episodes I've seen. It was very I don't know how to describe it. Maybe you can help me with that. But
it was
very different.
It was very different. It was touching on a real life kind of real life things. You know, like not just it wasn't just silly. It was silly. Depression masked the silliness, I think.
But I don't think they dealt with those things.
They dealt with them terribly.
Usually when an episode goes into this darkish or serious, oh my goodness, are we going to do it again? Are we going to talk about Gordon Jump and wine and pizza? Have we talked about it every time?
I think we have. This pretty much is that is what becomes this episode every time we get into, you know, Dudley, you know, being, you know, sloppy seconds.
Arnold sloppy seconds.
Yeah, right.
I don't know how. Something about your face, Michael, reminds me of Dudley and Arnold getting molested.
That's great. That's great. I it couldn't remind you of WKRP in Cincinnati.
No.
The other thing he's famous for.
Yes, correct.
That's great. Wonderful.
I don't know why. There's no rhyme or reason to it. But before I go way too far, that's kind of what we do anyway. Especially, you know, when I'm involved, I can't stay focused. But usually, when an episode of sitcom, this is a sitcom. Clearly, it's an animated sitcom, I believe, goes into this kind of dark area and talks about, you know, subject matter that's serious. They usually kind of try to be responsible with it.
They would be nowadays.
I thought they were then too. I mean, I don't think they condone what Gordon Jump was doing to Dudley.
Oh, wait, we're talking about that. I'm sorry.
No, I'm talking about both things.
Oh yeah,
I'm talking about both things. I think they addressed, but I think this King of the Hill episode did not even do that. I don't think they conveyed any message about suicidal thoughts or nothing.
I think the message they can, to me at least, but this is looking at it from today's viewpoint, is that these, you know, late 90s, middle of Texas guys had no idea how to handle it. And they thought they were doing the right thing. They were thoughtful, but they weren't doing the, maybe at the time that's what they thought. Just watching him.
But I feel like even when shows have kind of characters who are ignorant to the proper behavior, there's some sort of element that shows everybody the right way to handle something. And I don't think this episode had that, which was refreshing.
That's true. They just kind of
they just kind of treated it like everything else.
Everything was fine by the end.
Everything is fine and whatever. They treated it like like he was suffering from the common cold.
And they took care of it.
And they took care of it in the way and ignored it. Pretty much ignored it.
And then it went away.
And it went away. Perfect.
So
I don't think that's what you know we get from traditionally got from TV. So I appreciated the fact that we learned nothing.
So before we get into the episode more, I just want to give the quick details on it. It is a season 3, episode 9 of King of the Hill, titled "Pretty Dresses." Did you watch this originally in the original run? I feel like I ask you this every year, or did you?
No.
Came to it later.
No, I did watch a lot of King of the Hill while it was in an original run, but I would say not a ton of it. It was kind of sporadic a little bit. So a lot of these episodes that we go back and watch, I'm seeing for the first time.
Awesome. So this originally aired December 15th, 1998. So we were still in school. And I am going to pull up what was on TV that night and let's go through the
that long ago
listings. 1998. So we're in the late 90s, so we have UPN and the WB. On the WB that night, it only goes till 10 o'clock. 8 o'clock, a brand new episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, followed by a brand new episode of Felicity.
You watch both of those easily.
I absolutely,
no doubt about it.
Yes. Buffy,
no doubt about it.
I watched that with, I feel like I started watching it later. I came to Buffy maybe in like 2000 or 99. On UPN, there were 3 shows: a brand new episode of Moesha, followed by a brand new episode of Clueless, and then at 9 p.m. a Mariah Carey special, Mariah Carey Around the World. Watch any of those shows? I watched.
Where were we? This is 1998?
1998.
So where were we?
We were, okay. Juniors?
Okay,
Wait a
this is
minute. Oh, we no,
this is after you threw Stu's magazine across the room.
Oh, yeah.
This is,
I think
this
so.
magazine had been thrown at this point.
I graduated 99. I was supposed to graduate 98, but I changed major. So it's like our 4th year or whatever.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So you had settled in.
Oh, yeah. We're settled in the dorms. On CBS that night, a brand new episode of Jag, followed by the CBS Tuesday movie special, 1,000 Men and a Baby. That's the name of the movie that was on CBS that night. On NBC. Now, I watch the NBC shows. A repeat of Third Rock from the Sun, followed by a brand new episode of News Radio, a brand new episode of Just Shoot Me, and a brand new episode of Will and Grace. A lot of shows then.
Sure, some good ones, some not so good ones.
I didn't watch Just Shoot Me, and I didn't watch Will and Grace, but I definitely watched Third Rock.
News Radio.
On ABC this evening, a brand new episode of Home Improvement, followed by a new Hughley's, a brand new Spin City and Sports Night. And then at 10 p.m., a brand new episode of NYPD Blue. 98, I'm thinking this is Jimmy Smith's era, not quite noted kook Ricky Schroeder's era yet. Or I know that Mark Paul Gosselaar was on NYPD Blue for a while.
Really?
Sipowicz went through Partners like crazy.
Wow.
And of course, on Fox, 8 p.m., King of the Hill, followed by a show called Holding the Baby, which was never heard of it.
Never heard of it.
It was a American version of a British show. Lasted 13 episodes. It was gone. And then at 9 p.m., Guinness World Records with the episode titled "Man with Removable Face." Seems like a wonderful evening of television back in the 90s, where if you didn't tape it on your VCR, you would have to wait for reruns.
It sounds like an incredible night. It sounds like a lot of stuff that is timeless television.
I love going through these old listings and finding these like shows that I'm like, what were these shows? Some of them I like, oh wow, these were on at the same time, like these shows that you think about that are still talked about today. And then Holding the Baby. So and we had a couple shows listed on here that I did Home Improvement, I did Spin City. Last year I did News Radio.
Okay.
So there's a lot of and there's one more show in here that will be done this year. I'm not going to give it away yet. Ooh.
A show you just read?
One of the shows I listed is on the list for this year.
Just Shoot Me. I guessed it. Nailed it.
It's on my list. It's not locked in for this year yet. It is not that. So I'll just
okay. We won't spoil it for the good folk.
No. So let's jump into the actual episode. It opens up. I don't know if every episode does every episode open up with them kind of standing there drinking?
No.
Okay. So I thought maybe that was the thing. They're all just standing there drinking, and Bill just breaks down crying. With Christmas music starts playing, and that's it. They cut. That was the cold open of the show. Cut to the opening credits, but we come back. Bill's crying again, and the guys are just standing there. And he's like, I do love Christmas, celebrating the anniversary of when Lenore left me on Christmas Eve. The best thing that ever happened to me. He seems like Bill he seems like he's constantly depressed and looking for love. Because even last season, wasn't it? He caught on with a girl he went on a date with, and he became like way too much, way overbearing.
That's when he wouldn't take off the Santa suit, right?
Right.
He wouldn't take off. Yeah, and he was Santa. No, Christmas is not a good time for him usually. So I'm curious to know if every, subsequent episode is going to be Bill not having a good time at Christmas. But since you don't watch these episodes regularly, I can let you know that it doesn't seem like any time is a good time for Bill. It's not. This is not unusual in terms of unusual behavior for Bill. This is pretty much what Bill is year round.
That's what I figured.
It's just exacerbated during Christmas. So yes, the loneliness and the desperateness, it's present all the way through.
The sad sack.
He has a big thing for Peggy, though. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know that, so that'll be interesting.
He has a thing for Peggy.
Oh, he has a thing for. Oh, see,
he has a thing for Peggy.
It seems like they went to school together. A lot of them went to high school together, because that comes up in this episode.
Yeah.
So Hank goes over to Bill's house, and he sees all these presents and these trees, and we see that it has stuff with it has Lenore's name all over it, and he doesn't quite bring it up yet, but he wants to make sure he's coming over for dinner until the holidays are over. So it seems like he knows to even keep an eye on him.
Yeah, sure.
Until the holidays come over. They don't want to leave him alone. And then, he asks if all these gifts are for Lenore. He says, yeah, they'll be here when she comes back. He wants to make sure that he has everything there for her. And you could see that Hank wants to tell Bill that, she's not coming back, but he's like right on the edge. He's about to burst out into tears. He's like, well, there's crazier things have happened. So he gives Bill just that tiny bit of hope. Is that basically Hank's? Hank seems to be the
Hank is he's going to avoid unpleasantness,
but yet
and
he
confrontation for the most part.
Out of all friends, he's the one who seems to go the extra mile.
Yeah, he definitely is the most compassionate of the group.
Which, when you look at the other guys, doesn't seem.
It's not saying a lot.
Right?
It's not saying quite. It's not saying a lot, but I mean, I think of the group, yes, and he's fairly compassionate as it stands. He's just not a very emotional person. So it's the compassion juxtaposed to the lack of emotion that's interesting about Hank.
That's what makes him
That's what makes
Hank Hank. Yeah.
That's me, a top-notch propane salesman.
And I can't wait till he talks about the movie idea he has for a propane salesman. So we cut over to dinner where Bill is eating with him, but he starts talking about all the exes. And he's basically, trying to make them all feel bad, make them as miserable as him. He talks about, he goes, well, you only have one love in life. So he talks about even Bobby's ex-girlfriend, Luann's dead boyfriend, and Peggy, some boy that Peggy liked in 10th grade. But he didn't like you. He didn't like you.
Yeah.
He kept saying,
yeah, you liked him. He didn't like you.
And I wrote down, he's just very depressed, and he wants to make everyone else depressed around him. And the next morning, Bobby's making breakfast for them for some reason. He likes to do it. And Peggy's like, she doesn't want him.
Hank doesn't like it.
He doesn't like anything.
Hank doesn't like it.
It is, I guess he would think of as ladies' work. He doesn't like seeing.
Yeah, he said he rolled his eyes when Bobby said he was going to be the hostess with the mostest.
He did say that.
Went, and then he cut to him serving breakfast. Yeah. Do you have to do that?
He likes it. So Peggy says how she doesn't want him Bill around at dinner every night. And even Bobby goes, I could do without him for a little while.
Yeah.
Hank brings up the fact that Bill blocked for him when he was the star running back in high school. And that's the kind of guy he wants for dinner. Shame on both of them. They do end up bringing him back to dinner again, but this time he's brought a friend he's named Lenore the iguana, or as Peggy calls the iguana.
Ajuana. Yeah. I think Peggy, that's Peggy's standout line for the episode, I think.
That was good, yeah. After dinner that night, she says she just can't deal with him being around dinner with the ajuana. She says it's a cry for help. Bill barges into the bedroom saying he had a bad dream. He's like, I had a dream that Lenore stole Lenore, and then I was chasing Lenore and yelling at Lenore, and then my teeth fell out.
Yeah.
And you were there, Peggy. Like, can I sleep on your couch? And Peggy looks at Hank when he leaves. He goes, I'm giving you 24 hours to get me out of that man's dreams. So you can see that she actually tried. She does say a line where she does try to do something, and then Hank's response is ridiculous and hilarious. So the following night, Hank tells him, maybe try having dinner with yourself. We want to have dinner with the family. And Bill's like, oh, yeah, I like being alone. In fact, I prefer it. And at the Hill House, Peggy's like, the food, she says the food even smells better without him there. Well, we cut over to Bill, and that's about as sad as it possibly can get. He's got one fork, one cup, one plate, and he breaks the plate. Ends up making spaghetti. And I don't know why he could have just eaten the spaghetti out of the pot, but he puts it on the counter, eats the spaghetti off the counter, and drinks the sauce.
Yeah, he's downward spiral at this point.
It is getting pretty bad.
Mm-hmm. But it's getting bad, but we haven't gotten there yet.
It gets worse. Yes, it definitely gets worse.
We've got a little way to go.
Meanwhile, Hank is telling his family about this great idea he has for a Clint Eastwood movie where Clint is a propane salesman. Just like
Bobby
the tail
loves
end
it.
of that. Luann loved it too. She's like, will you direct it? He's like, maybe, possibly. And
maybe our own Peggy will do it.
he leans
so
back.
he entrusts Peggy with
That's
that
true.
responsibility as well.
The movie. He leans back, and you see Bill is just in the yard watching them, crying, longing to be part of the family. He goes into the garage and borrows one of the many ladders that Hank has. He has multiple ladders.
The 10-foot.
And he gets caught up on the Christmas lights. Hank thinks the lights have gone out. So he goes into his garage and he's like, yeah, where's my 10-foot ladder? Like
10-foot.
Not an adjustable ladder, just 6 or 7 different ladders. He thinks Dale or Bill might have taken it. So he gets a bigger ladder. He goes on the roof. And I think I saw a commercial for this, like when I was looking up promos last year of Bill being up on the roof. And he's like, he sees Bill. He's like, hey, what are you doing? You got satellite dish problems? No, I'm just up here to kill myself. And he says it so nonchalant. And then he does a thing where he doesn't jump off the house. It's almost like I'm looking for a cry for help. I'm going to throw myself off the roof as slowly as possible, leaning off, bending, only because the gutter broke. He smashes down to the ground below. And Hank is like, Bill. He jumps off that roof pretty quick and runs across the street as it cuts to commercial. So we come back and we see Dale is there with his wife. That's his wife, right? Now, I remember the wife, this didn't come up in this episode, but the wife has a Native American lover, and that's where the son, right? They have a son that Dale calls his son, but it clearly isn't.
Dale's son, Joseph, and Joseph's father, I suppose, would be Dale, but he has he bears a striking resemblance to Nancy's massage therapist, John Redcorn.
There was none of that in this episode.
Striking resemblance.
No John Redcorn.
No, John Redcorn didn't. No
Chuck Mangione in this episode either.
No Chuck Mangione. No. No.
But I love this because they're standing around and they're trying to figure out. Bill's sitting there with a sling, and Peggy's like, you know what I feel bad for? I feel bad for Bill. And she almost does it right. She goes, we need to get him a psychiatrist. And do you remember what Hank's response is to that? He says,
he's just suicidal. He's not crazy.
Exactly. That's his response. He's like, whoa. Like, that's psychiatrists for crazy people, not this. Right. What is he, just got a case of the Mondays? I wrote like I thought the whole point of this, and maybe it wasn't, but the whole point is these guys do not know how to deal with this, but they never address that. They never address, wow, we don't know how to deal with this. You'd think it would be that, but it's just face value.
It wasn't important enough to address. It was I felt like they reduced somebody being suicidal, just like to any other problem that any of them encountered during the course of one of these episodes. So it could be Hank running out of propane. It's the same thing essentially. Equal value, equal weighted problem.
There's a problem. There's a solution.
As Bill being suicidal.
It's exactly the same.
No big
thing.
deal.
Yep.
We'll just watch him for a little while.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Snap out of it.
That's exactly. He wants everyone. Basically, they're going to watch him at all times. But I love Dale's like, I don't think he's gonna snap out of it. There's nothing we can do but sit back and watch the bloodbath.
Watch the bloodbath. He's as good as dead.
And he's like,
he's
no,
stealing his stuff.
He's stealing his. He's like, he would have wanted it this way. He's like, he's still alive. He tries to steal his TV later. He tries
he took his pajamas.
He took the silk pajamas that we see him wearing later. Bill's like, can I have another coat? He's like, quiet, Bill. We're trying to do something here. So Hank goes in the house first, and he sees a knife. He's like, well, better not have this out. Hides the knife, and he asks Bill. He's like, maybe you ought to go to sleep. And Bill's just like, that's all I do is sleep. Again, another sign of depression. All I do is sleep.
Right.
I guess I'm just getting practice for the big long sleep.
That was a good line too.
Hank said, do you want a beer? He's like, no, beer's are depressant. And you can see Hank, no matter what, he's like, you don't go blaming the beer. Do not go blaming the beer. So while Hank is in the fridge, Bill tries again. He rushes into his electric stove in the oven, sticks his head in the oven. He's like, it's electric. It's not going to do anything. And Bill's like, well, it's getting kind of hot in here. So he grabs him, throws him into bed, and he's like, we'll do this the hard way. That's when he first finds out that Bill has an inkling for silk pajamas. which I think even Hank found was odd. He thinks silk is just for pantyhose. And he's like, "You've got a wife. This is all I have." I thought maybe this was the beginning of finding out that he just liked to dress this way. I didn't know it was going to be a mental crack that it gets that way. Hank tells him to put on the pajamas. He undresses him. He brushes his teeth. He stays with him until he falls asleep. But actually, and I wrote down, he's a good friend, even though he's not really doing the right thing. He falls asleep. Bill stays awake, and he tries to kill himself again, this time by sticking his head in the nightstand drawer and just smashing his head with the door. Doesn't work. Hank wakes up and stops him. And then we jump to the next day, and Bill is just sitting there, and he's not moving. He's not moving in his chair because this time Dale is watching him. Dale has his own different way. How does Dale?
Dale's got a shotgun.
He has a shotgun. He's like, I got to go to the bathroom. Not on my watch. He cocks his gun. It was the most effective out of all of them. I'll just say it did work. Because that night he went to a cowboy saloon with Boomhauser, who I guess basically just wanted to kind of keep an eye on him. He really wasn't. He was dancing and making out with chicks. And this actually one of my favorite lines was what Bill said in this saloon about him and Lenore. Do you remember what he said?
I do. He said me and Lenore used to come here and watch people dance. Is that it? We used
to come here and watch people dance. I thought that was hilarious. We used to come here and dance. We used to come here and listen to music. We used to come here and watch people dance. I just thought that was indicative of what their relationship was. They didn't want to really be together. They were just kind of spending time together. I thought that was hilarious. That Bill
says things phrases things that way.
That you realize, wait a second, that's not exactly. Yeah,
that's not what it sounds like or what we thought you were going to convey.
I love that. But meanwhile, he's looking around and he sees all these people kissing and enjoying each other's company. And he just freaks out. He runs out of the saloon, runs into traffic. Basically, you think he's running in front of a Mack truck, but it reminds me of like Austin Powers with the, I'm going to floor it with the slow thing. And the guy's screaming. The truck's way off in the distance, turns. There's nothing. And Boomhauser just comes out, or Boomhauer. I keep saying it wrong. Is it Boomhauer? Boomhauer.
I think it's Boomhauer.
Yeah. He comes out and he's just like, doesn't say anything, just grabs him, brings him back into the saloon. And then we cut back to Bill's house, and they're basically like, they can't do this anymore. I think Dale said, it's not in my nature to care about others.
Right.
And at this point,
Boomhauer said, work, Bill, bullet in my head.
It's like basically he's going to push him to do it. So Hank takes over everyone's shift, really, and he just needs to go talk to his boss. But that's when he noticed that Dale has Bill's silk pajamas on. He's like, well, Dale said, he's as good as Dad. What's the difference? At the propane company, Hank's boss, also voiced, I could tell by Stephen Root, the voice of Bill, was asking for a little free time to take care of his friend. All the boss was thinking about was his Christmas party.
Right.
Apparently Hank throws the Christmas party, but it has all their clients there. And he's like, it's a matter of life and death with my friend. But he's like, yeah, that's fine. Just we'll take out your vacation days. So he's going to lose his vacation days to take care of his friend. Back at home, he tells Peggy he's exhausted. He hasn't slept in 2 days. So he's like, do you think you can find Bill a date? And Peggy, she kind of says, an idea. And I thought the idea was quite funny. Do you remember?
She would have to tell the prospective date that Bill wasn't there.
Right. She would leave out. Yes. She goes, obviously, I can't tell him that Bill's going to be here.
Right.
And she's like basically trying to make excuses. And he's like, oh, great. Thanks, Peggy. So we have that dinner, and Peggy's friend Sheila is there, who doesn't look happy to be anywhere, honestly. You look like the Wicked Witch of the West. I don't know, something out of like the 1920s or something, her dress and everything. But Peggy thought maybe they have something in common because she collects throw pillows and he collects exotic lizards. She's like, I have a couple throw pillows. But I noticed Bill is dressed completely in his military uniform. I didn't realize.
Sure.
He's a veteran.
Yes, he does that from time to time when it's formal. It's a formal affair. He's done that in other episodes.
He would be
It's
one
a
of
good
those.
look for him.
If he ever went on Jeopardy, he would dress like that. I noticed a lot of people.
Yes, he would dress like
veterans.
that, 100%.
Yep. Even though he still has the iguana on his shoulder, and he first thing he says to her, he goes, "They won't let me have a knife. I'm in the middle of unbelievable." And so this woman's like, "You lied to me," and she's angry about it. She says she finds iguanas to be filthy and repulsive. He's like, well, anyone could use a bath. And then the thing pees right on his shoulder. She says, you are a gross man. And his response,
marry me.
Just like, what? He hugs her, marry me. At this point, the iguana and the dog notice each other. I don't know the dog's name, but the iguana jumps off his shoulder.
Ladybird.
The iguana, Lenore, jumps off Bill's shoulder, jumps out the window. He's like, Lenore. And he jumps out of the window too. He runs back to his house looking everywhere. And Peggy,
he checked the mailbox.
Like he opened the mailbox, went in and closed it. I didn't even think of that. She says, Sheila, I must let you know right now that I've already given Bill your number. And that was the end of the date. And Hank watches Bill looking everywhere. Wow, that's the moment he sees Dale coming around the back of the house, stealing Bill's TV. And he's like, he would have wanted me to have it.
He would have wanted me to have it.
He's like, he's still alive. Nitpicking ain't going to bring him back. So Hank goes into Bill's house and Bill is crying and sad. He's like, help me look for Lenore. And this is where Hank kind of lets him have it. He smashes all the things. He's like, she's not coming back. She's gone. Smashes these, like the hat, the dress, all these things that I think come up later. And then Bill just kind of freezes. He's like numb. He's like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I don't feel anything at all. And Hank's like, that's great.
Yeah, that's great.
I knew you'd snap out of it.
And he's like, yes. So he's just answering like, yes.
Yeah.
And
because you sure you're okay. You made sure to ask twice, which was very important.
Yeah, because Peggy questions him about that shortly after. It's like, you sure he's okay? And he's like, I asked twice.
Which makes it definite. I thought that was very funny. So he notices the iguana and he's like, oh, let me bring it back to Bill's house. Brings it back to Bill's house. And this is where we start to see the title of the show comes in. Because he doesn't see Bill anywhere, but he knows there's someone in the backyard in a dress and a hat hanging up laundry. He's like, who are you? What are you doing in Bill's backyard? Bill turns around and Hank, don't you recognize me? He's in a full hat and dress. He's like, I'm Lenore. He couldn't keep his voice from cracking constantly. I love Bill so much and I really missed him. And this is where I was like, okay, there's no coming back from this for Bill. I mean, in 5 minutes, he'll be completely cured. But, in real life, there would be years of therapy involved, but not in Texas, not in the middle of Texas in 1998.
They went full Bates Motel.
They did. And look how good it turned out for young Norman.
Norman, he's a physician now.
Yeah, that's true. He's the good doctor. It's just a little slight change. The guy's playing the exact same character, basically. He's just not murderous. It's
good casting. Good casting.
So he's like, no, this is too much for Hank. He's like, you blocked for me in high school, but I've been blocking for you here. Now I don't even know what game you're playing. It's like a kind of crazy tennis. And
can you believe that?
That's his.
He said, see, the thing is, he said a crazy tennis so many years ago, and now today we have pickleball, which is crazy tennis.
That is the future of pickleball. I don't know. I was trying to make some sort of male genitalia line, but I really didn't make it work. But that's where I was going with it. I've never played pickleball. Have you?
No, I haven't. But I mean, it's quite the rage.
It is. Everywhere I go, the tennis courts are being converted to pickleball courts, and they're
pickleball.
It must be crazy in Florida.
Hank foresaw this.
He did. The crazy tennis.
Crazy tennis.
With old guys dressed in their ex-wives' dresses. So he's like, it's nice visiting you. I'll see you at the party. He's like, nope, you're not coming to my party. He goes, well, I'm already invited. So there. So later outside, we see the four friends hanging, drinking beer. Well, we see three friends, and then Bill shows up in a dress. And he's like, do you think you could spare a beer for an old lady? And Dale's like, he's like, come on, you're Bill. He's like, no, I'm Lenore. He's like, oh, really? Then where's Bill? He goes, Bill's in the house. Can you go get him? He goes, yes, I can. He goes, well, he says, do you want me to go get him? Dale says, I'm skeptical that you could, but intrigued that you may, which means you just go in and take the dress off. But Dale has a great line when Bill goes off. He says, Bill's been acting a little weird lately. Don't you think, Hank? He's like, maybe it's just me. Like now he notices, what they've been dealing with for the last few days. But Bill does come back. He's like, I'm just chilly. I needed a wrap. And he keeps drinking. And Hank has enough. He goes into his house to peel some angry potatoes. Peeling anger.
But what I did like before he went in is that what pushed him over the edge is when they're out there drinking and they're like, yep. And he's like, yep. And he just couldn't take the Lenore version of the yep. It was too much. That's what drove him inside.
The other guys, they probably thought it was weird, but they just hung. They hung with it. They go into the house. Or as I said, he was in the house. He's like, I'm using my vacation days. I'm sick of it. I bathed that son of a bitch, and he's threatening to crash my Christmas party. And Peggy, this is where I think, okay, Peggy has no idea what's going on either, because she says, maybe the only way he could get Lenore back was to become him. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a psychological basis to it. You think?
Yeah.
Maybe.
She started off like she knew something and then kind of wrapped it up.
There might be more to it. Luann's like, I don't know much about psychology, but it sounds like he needs closure, and maybe he needs to realize Luann's never coming back, and he just needs to move on. It's the same way that Buckley's angel told her. So is that her ex-boyfriend that died?
Buckley. I don't remember Buckley, but I do remember her saying Buckley quite a lot. But I didn't actually pay close attention to that Luann storyline on it, to be honest.
She said Buckley's angel. And so apparently she talks to an angel. So there's a lot going on there. And she's like, Peggy has a great idea of inviting the real Lenore. But of course, Luann's like, well, I hope it works. But if they show up in the same dress, it's going to be a disaster. So we cut to the final night, the night where the shit hits the fan, but everything gets cured and fixed in a tight, nice little bow. It's party night, and Bill shows up in a blue dress. He's got pearl earrings on, and Bobby, I wrote down, how do you think in 1998 in the middle of Texas this is going to turn out? But Bobby comes up with the best response. He offers an hors d'oeuvre to Mr. and Mrs.
Mr. and Mrs. Dochi.
He calls them both, which I thought was great. Bill's like, why, thank you. And Hank's boss comes out. He's like, what the hell's going on here? Hank tries to cover for it, saying, I ordered a Santa. This is some kind of mistake. And he tries to get Bill to go out. Bill, he's like, come on, Bill. He's like, he corrects him, says he's Lenore, goes over, pours himself a drink.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, there's a phone call, and it's the real Lenore.
He poured a drink for Lenore and a beer for Bill.
That's why I had the beer. Oh.
Yes, the beer was for Bill.
Yes,
the wine was for Lenore.
Perfect. Not weird
so he's
at all.
Doing things like that. No, he was not doing anything weird.
So the real Lenore calls, and that's the image we have behind me here.
Right.
Peggy, in the image in the show notes and on the website, Peggy is like, well, can't you want to say hi to him? Can you come? You could tell Lenore's shutting everything down, doesn't want to be around him at all. And Bill, it's about all he could take. He starts crying. He goes to pour himself another drink, and he starts hearing people in the party talking about him. Like, what is this, a joke? What's going on here? He's a freak. And it's like, I was like, oh man, it's going to get ugly here. One guy says, go back to Hollywood. Another one says, this isn't the Democratic National Convention. Someone says, you you crashed the wrong party, honey. All this sounds like 2024.
It was incredible, right?
It was exactly.
It was incredible. It was incredible.
And everyone starts yelling at him, and then this is where you come to realize how awesome Hank is, because Hank all of a sudden goes, yeah, we're all having fun. And we turn and we see Hank put a dress on over his clothes. He's like, that's this kind of party. He's like, and you realize that I said, Hank, he's not equipped to figure out how to deal with things, but he will be there for his friend.
Anything, he's very compassionate in that regard. He just doesn't
quite know how to deal with it.
Yeah, doesn't know how. He's very, doesn't have a lot of emotion, very masculine kind of thing, macho thing. So it plays against his natural like compassion that exists within him. So it's good stuff. It's Hank. It's what you would expect from Hank, and also what you would expect from Peggy in regard to trying to help, but usually always making the situation worse.
Always. And Hank says, anything goes. Woo-hoo. Dale's like, this was not on my invitation. Did Bill get a special invitation? You can see he actually, it's proven he wanted to be part of this. So Bill just freaks out and starts yelling, stop it, like high pitched. This is where I was like, oh man, he's having a mental breakdown. He runs outside and we're seconds away from everything being fine. Peggy's like, okie dokie, everyone, let's play Boggle. She just wants to cover up. She goes, it's not usually this large of a group, but it's Christmas. Let's sing a song. So we leave the party. We don't go back inside the party at all. Hank follows Bill outside, and Bill is like screaming, stop teasing me. And I felt bad. Like at this point, I was like, this is like sad, like dramatic sad. And he's crying. And he's like, he's having a mental breakdown. He's like, Bill. And then Hank finally realizes he'll role play as Lenore. He's like, I don't love him. I'm Lenore. And he just pushes on. He says, I've left you forever because you're lazy and you're no good. And now you see Bill kind of listening, and he seems to break to actually get through to him. He's like, no, we could have worked things out.
That's an important point that I observed. But apparently he said, I'm Lenore, no, I'm Lenore. So they're back and forth though. But it's when he said, you're lazy and no good, he said, oh, Lenore. That is what was very familiar to him.
Yeah. That's what gets him. That's hilarious.
Convinced him at that point. Oh, you can't be faking. You have to be Lenore.
That's only she would say something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely her. Right. So like, I thought that was good too.
And he says, I don't love you. He's like, that's it? Like, you don't love me? That's why you left? Simple as that. And then he turns back into Bill and he starts getting the emotion out. He's like, you didn't even leave me a Dear John letter. I consider that rude. And he pokes Hank. And he's like, I'll tell you something. I am worth a Dear John letter. I'll tell you that right now. There are a lot of women who agree with me. That's funny. There's not a lot of women who would be with him, but a lot of women who would at least leave a letter while he leaves.
Yeah, they would agree that he needs and deserves a Dear John letter.
That's another Bill kind of line where you realize, wait a second, he's not saying a lot of women would be happy to be with me.
Correct.
So he's like, you go ahead. You don't deserve me. You don't deserve. And he says his full name, which was very long. William Fontaine.
Oh, he said it in a very funny way.
And he's like, Hank says, okay, Bill. And he takes off his dress. And he takes off his dress.
They both take off
their dresses. And he's like, oh, I really hit rock bottom there, didn't I, Hank? He's like, yeah, and hard. He goes, it's all uphill from here. And they're like, Merry Christmas. And but while they're looking at the stars together, Dale comes out in a dress and realizes, oh crap, they don't do it anymore. And he runs back in the house.
Yeah. And he had a purse and everything.
That's the end of the episode. We just like, well, Bill will be back to normal Bill. Couple days, a quick mental breakdown. He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. And he was. I can't wait to see what he does next Christmas.
I can't wait either, because I hate to say it, but that's probably the next time I'm going to watch King of the Hill, which it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. Damn it. I do this to myself. I have 300 plus days, 360 odd days, depending on when we do this next year, to make right the wrong that is me not watching the show. I need to correct. I mean, I have so many effing shows on my list, but this one has to be on there. Just has to be.
Now we've watched 3 now. You've watched 3. And I
And
think
every
we can
single one I've
say,
enjoyed.
yeah, right? They're all
Yes.
like above average.
Yes.
It's a,
And
it's a good show. I think that I think you would enjoy it. But I do think now there is a certain kind of a nice quality to you only watching it once a year. I
Right,
think
'cause,
that's also something that's interesting.
Yeah. I was going to say, do you think we'll be having the same conversation next year? Probably.
Either way, I'm going to be happy with that. So
Good.
if you tell me, hey, I've watched a lot of episodes since, I'll say great. But if you also say I'm ready for the 4th episode I've ever seen, also that's great
Also
too.
pretty great.
Yeah,
It's like,
also,
to me, King of the Hill is just this great Christmas show. Every episode
it's
is
a great
celebrating Christmas. Every day is Christmas for the Hill family.
it's got 12 total episodes.
Every single one Christmassier than the next. Even the one with suicide and mental breakdown. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. And you saw they pretty much, they gave a pretty comprehensive wrap up on with respect to suicide,
mental health. Oh, yes.
man, yeah, they addressed it head on,
Right.
essentially.
Now, nowadays there's always the end. They'll put the helpline for anyone.
Oh, yeah.
There'll be all kinds of things. Nothing like that in 98.
Nope.
Nope.
Nope, nothing. Not a thing. But they were doing it in 1988.
That's
so I don't
true.
understand how King of
Oh,
the
yeah.
Hill
King of the Hill
decided
just-
that they were going to do this
They're just like,
with nothing
the real joke was Dale put a dress on in the background.
in the background. I mean, I really thought it was different. And I
I don't
want to
when
be taught anything.
When I read the premise, I was like, wait, this is the Christmas episode? It sure as
And I
hell
wanted
was.
to ask you that. What was you said you had read the premise and it sounded funny. What was
Well, it was,
in the premise that you read?
I think it was that something about Bill is suicidal. Like literally, it was written in the thing, suicidal, about his ex-wife. And I was like, this is going to be fun. This is gonna be, and it was fun at the absurdness of how they reacted to it without maybe it being as tongue in cheek as I thought it might have been. Nowadays, that reaction would be like, oh, look at how ridiculous they are. But then I would have been just like, we're just guys not knowing how to react. And that's the story. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I was curious. I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to know what you knew going in because because I was wondering, did you know about him? The him wearing a dress.
I did
that in
just
the
because of the pictures. Like when I was looking up the, I think I read the premise. Maybe it was the IMDb premise. Let me see if I can. Because usually they give a quick little summary. During the Christmas season, Bill becomes suicidal and his friends have to watch him. Things take a bizarre turn when he decides to become his ex-wife, Lenore. I was like, what?
See, now my question to you is, does it behoove you to read the synopsis?
That's true.
Because I'll tell you what, I didn't read. I just went straight to the Christmas episode, and all I knew was the title, which doesn't really mean anything. I don't think any of these titles of this particular show mean much. You kind of have to watch the episode and then figure out why they named it that.
Now,
but it was very enjoyable for this thing to unfold in such a weird way, knowing nothing at all. I had
it would
no
have been
idea how
better
this is
to
gonna-
not know. Yep.
not know anything, and I knew nothing. So I think maybe, I don't know if the synopsis kind of gives you too much.
I should skip the synopsis next year and just watch it blindly.
Watch it blind and see what I mean, because I think this would have been. I mean, I thought I enjoyed not knowing anything because it really
Absolutely.
unfolded something I did not expect the suicidal, angle, and I definitely didn't expect. Because I didn't see any pictures either, expect him to, transform into Lenore. So both of those things were a pleasant surprise.
That's awesome. Now, do you know, I think we talked about this last year, but I think the same guy who wrote last year's episode wrote this year's episode. That is Paul Lieberstein, Toby from The Office.
Really?
He wrote this episode.
He wrote this episode?
Yep.
It's very Toby-esque, actually.
That
it
humor,
feels like Toby.
that Toby,
It feels very Toby. Wow, Toby's a talent.
Guy, yeah. So are there any other final thoughts you have about this episode or about King of the Hill?
I think it's one of my favorite episodes that I've ever seen because it's so awkward. It's so uncomfortable.
It is definitely awkward and
it's
unsettling.
Yeah, it's unsettling. It goes there, and it's almost. I feel like almost everything everybody says in this episode is pretty funny.
It is very funny too. Yeah, that's the
right?
their reactions.
You know the premise, like almost everything that comes out of each one of the characters' mouth, probably with the exceptions of a few lines here to set up another line, but essentially everything. There isn't a line in there from Dale that's not funny.
No, there's no wasted moments.
It's everything. Yep. No wasted moments, exactly. No wasted moments, and even the small ones, even when you don't even know. Sometimes Bill says something, as you said, and it turns out that was another punchline. Essentially,
and I didn't even notice the wine and the beer. See, like little thing. Like I watched it.
Yep.
I watched it yesterday, and then I watched it again today. So, and that's where I took the notes. So it was.
She pours the beer and she takes a sip, and then he picks up the beer, and it's like Bill picks up the beer.
Oh Jesus, that is.
So it's
awesome.
Weird. So I enjoyed that. I love this episode. So I'm glad that we did this one.
I am glad that you were able.
It makes me feel Christmassy. It's Christmassy.
It really does work.
These shows, all the emotions of Christmas.
Right. I know all the emotions of Christmas in one episode, but it really does work. Watching these sitcoms on various levels of quality really do get me in the Christmas season, because it's just watching a family having a full Christmas every day. And I am very glad that I keep doing this, and I'm very glad that you keep joining me. Be back again next year?
Oh, of course. I kind of messaged you early this year, I think, because I maybe don't always do that.
Last year we did it, I think, on the 23rd. I think the previous 2 years were the 23rd.
Yeah.
So we were able to get this nice and early. You're the first guest of the year.
Yeah. So I'm happy about that for sure.
Awesome. Before we head out, do you have anything you want to promote, talk about, social media, anything like that?
I got nothing.
Sweet.
I got no digital footprint at all whatsoever. But I want to congratulate you on your series, on your show, on your all the podcast series that you have on Fans Not Experts and Geek Mentality and all the stuff that you're doing. I'm very proud of you, and I think you're doing a great job, and you're very talented. Awesome. And my wife. Oh, let me go. I have one thing to say. My wife said she misses, and she's a big fan of Letters to Mother. Big fan of Letters to Mother. So whenever you want to bring that back, there's one person for sure who's locked in.
Oh, I'll have to bring that back Marty McFly is coming back, so there'll at least be one where I'll just have to get it with the type word, "Dearest Mother."
Yeah.
Give one letter. Awesome. Oh, that just
huge
made my day. Awesome.
No, huge fan. Letters to Mother. I almost forgot.
Awesome.
I think I was supposed to tell you that last year or the year before. I keep almost forgetting. So I got it this time.
Awesome. Thank you. So even though Jay's smart enough to be off of social media for the most part, you can find me on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Mastodon.social at Geek Mentality. The TikTok page is Geek Mentality Mike. The Facebook page is Fans Not Experts. The YouTube channel is Fans Not Experts, and the website is fansnotexperts.com. That's it. I'm done. I'll be back tomorrow. Jay will be back next year. Jay will be back for Marty McFly in March. He's not missing this one. Jason, thank you again for joining the show. He disappeared. All I see is the Millennium Falcon. Thank you again for joining the show. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Same to you. Same to yours.
And until tomorrow, my friends, here is my theme song.
This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. 'Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans Not Experts.
Boom. We did it again.
We did it.